Northern Minnesota has a way of humbling you. The forests stretch endlessly, dense with spruce, pine, and birch, swallowing sound and distance until direction itself feels negotiable. It was into this wild country, near the Chippewa National Forest and uncomfortably close to the Canadian border, that I traveled for one of the most intense investigations I've ever experienced for Sasquatch theory. This wasn't a casual expedition. This was a return to a place already known for activity, guided by someone I trust deeply, my longtime friend Chris. Chris and I first crossed paths 6 years ago after he appeared on my podcast to share a series of encounters that genuinely shook me. He wasn't new to the subject or chasing stories, he was already a seasoned outdoorsman and researcher when Sasquatch entered his life in a way he couldn't explain away. One of his earliest experiences involved what he called a symphony of primates, a layered chorus of vocalizations echoing through the forest at night. The sounds weren't random or animalistic in any familiar sense. They were structured, multi-toned, and intelligent, reminding him of something straight out of Planet of the Apes. Since then, his experiences have only intensified, rock-throwing incidents with clear intent, heavy bipedal footsteps circling camps, and bizarre woven tree structures tucked just out of sight along Forest Service roads. This time, I joined Chris in his research area for a full camping expedition. From the moment we arrived, the atmosphere felt charged, thick, watchful. It didn't take long before the forest announced itself. Within hours, we began hearing sharp tree breaks in the distance, the unmistakable sound of solid wood snapping under tremendous force. These weren't wind pops or falling branches. They were deliberate, spaced, and responsive, often answering one another from different directions. As dusk settled in, the activity escalated. We heard what I can only describe as puppy-like mimics, high-pitched, playful sounds that felt wildly out of place in the deep woods. Then came the massive thuds. Heavy impacts that reverberated through the ground, as if something extremely large was dropping weight intentionally. Rock clacking followed, stones struck together in rhythmic patterns that carried far through the trees. At one point, we experienced something even stranger, a low-frequency vibration that could be felt in the chest and legs from over 100 yards away. It wasn't audible so much as it was physical. Infrasound, the kind of phenomenon reported by countless witnesses who describe sudden dread, confusion, or panic without an obvious cause. Perhaps the most unsettling moment came quietly. Chris reached into his pocket and froze. Inside was a rock that hadn't been there before. We both knew it immediately. There was no rational explanation. It wasn't something that fell in accidentally or was overlooked earlier. It felt intentional, personal. A message that said, "We see you. We're closer than you think." Before our arrival, Chris had left an offering in the forest. Nothing elaborate, just a gesture of respect. He's always believed that whatever inhabits these woods responds to intent as much as action. That night, it felt like the offering had been acknowledged. The forest didn't sleep. Sounds moved around our camp, circling, approaching, withdrawing. Footsteps paced just beyond the firelight. The sense of being observed was overwhelming, yet not overtly hostile. Curious, calculating. Sometime in the early morning hours, one of our team members bolted awake in sheer terror. There was no nightmare they could recall, no sound that triggered it. Just a sudden, crushing fear that left them shaken and disoriented. We've heard reports like this before, what some describe as emotional imprinting or even psychic influence. A targeted wave of fear projected without physical contact. Whether that explanation is correct or not, the effect was real. The emotional atmosphere shifted immediately, as if something had tested a boundary and then retreated. Over the next 2 days, we documented evidence that only reinforced what we were experiencing. Tracks pressed deep into the soft earth, far larger than any bare print and clearly bipedal. Tree structures twisted and interwoven in ways that defied natural fall patterns. These weren't random storm casualties. They were deliberate constructions, markers of presence and territory. In several areas, we found signs of repeated use, paths pressed into the undergrowth, vantage points overlooking roads, and broken branches positioned at eye level. What struck me most was the consistency. This wasn't a one-off encounter or a fleeting experience. This was an active, ongoing presence. Something intelligent, aware, and deeply integrated into the landscape. I've investigated many locations over the years, but this area stands apart. The frequency, variety, and intensity of phenomena here are unlike anything I've personally encountered. Northern Minnesota doesn't give up its secrets easily. But that weekend, it felt like the forest chose to pull back the curtain, just enough. Whether you call them Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or something else entirely, whatever lives out there knows exactly who belongs, who is visiting, and why they've come. And sometimes, it answers back.